In a stunning move, Japan has frozen all trade with the United States, halting a multi-trillion-dollar relationship overnight. This is a direct response to harsh tariffs imposed by President Trump's administration, escalating a simmering dispute into a full-blown economic standoff. The freeze is Tokyo's boldest action in decades, a high-stakes gamble to force Washington back to the negotiating table. For years, Japan took a measured approach with the US, but this marks a breaking point. Japan's economic sovereignty is on the line. Billions in daily trade are now at risk, with supply chains disrupted and jobs threatened on both sides of the Pacific. Ports are in chaos, businesses are scrambling, and goods from cars to electronics are stuck in limbo. The world is watching. This is no minor spat, but a crisis that could redefine US-Japan relations for years. The price of goods may soar, and industries built on cross-Pacific trade face existential threats. Japan's move signals deep frustration with what it sees as aggressive, unpredictable US trade policy. The immediate impact is confusion and economic pain, with no clear end in sight. The stage is set for a protracted dispute that could reshape the global economic landscape. This crisis is the result of months of fraught negotiations, culminating in a July 2025 trade deal that was supposed to renew US-Japan partnership. Instead, it became the source of conflict, with Japan's Minister Akazawa and US Commerce Secretary Lutnick striking a deal that left both sides dissatisfied. The agreement imposed a 15% tariff on most Japanese exports, lower than the threatened 25%. But still a bitter pill for Japan. In return, Japan pledged a massive $550 billion investment in the US, targeting key industries. But the deal's details were murky. No joint statement, no shared text, just a White House fact sheet and confusion. Critics in Japan argued Akazawa conceded too much, while the US pressed ahead with tariffs. The lack of clarity and mutual endorsement sowed mistrust, turning the agreement into a ticking time bomb. As disputes mounted, the fragile foundation crumbled, and the relationship deteriorated rapidly. The absence of a clear, shared understanding left both sides with different expectations, and no fallback when things went wrong. The result, a deal destined to fail, and a crisis that now threatens both economies. The explosion we see today was inevitable, given the ambiguity and mistrust at the heart of the process. Quick announcements replaced real partnership, setting the stage for today's standoff. The new tariffs are a punishing web, hitting a vast range of Japanese goods. Most products now face a 15% tariff, a major blow to Japan's export-heavy economy. The automotive sector is hit hardest, with tariffs on cars and parts jumping from 2.5% to 15%. Steel, aluminum, and copper face even steeper 50% duties, effectively shutting Japanese metal producers out of the US market. Pharmaceutical generics and their ingredients are exempt, but branded drugs are not, leaving major Japanese pharma companies in limbo. Japan claims the US made serious errors in applying the new rules, vowing to refund excess duties, but Washington has not acknowledged any mistake. This deepens Tokyo's sense of injustice and mistrust. The combination of broad and targeted tariffs creates a barrier Japan finds untenable. The dispute over tariff administration only fuels the crisis, justifying Japan's drastic freeze. The tariffs' impact on Japan has been swift and severe. Exports to the US plunged 14% in August 2025, marking the fifth straight month of decline. The automotive industry, a pillar of Japan's economy, is reeling. Tariffs have slashed competitiveness and profits, threatening millions of jobs. Smaller suppliers, unable to relocate, face sharp drops in orders and risk closure. The pain ripples through Japan's manufacturing heartland, triggering layoffs and uncertainty. The government faces mounting pressure to act as factory output falls and investment stalls. The trade freeze is a desperate attempt to halt the economic bleeding. For Japan, this is not just policy, it's a fight for economic survival. Central to the dispute is Japan's $550 billion investment pledge in the US, a supposed win for the Trump administration, but the details are murky. Trump claims the US will keep 90% of profits and that he'll control the fund, while Japan insists most of the money is in loans and guarantees, not cash. This fundamental disagreement has bred deep mistrust. The idea of U.S. presidential control over Japanese-backed funds alarms Tokyo, suggesting a misunderstanding or misrepresentation of the deal. For Japan, the investment was meant to foster partnership, not serve as a blank check. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent has warned that if the U.S. is dissatisfied, tariffs could jump to 25%, turning the investment into a hostage. The $550 billion pledge, instead of cementing cooperation, has become a symbol of coercion and instability. The threat of higher tariffs hangs over Japan, linking the investment directly to economic punishment. What should have been a centerpiece of partnership is now a major source of friction. The investment fund is less a commitment, more a bargaining chip in a dangerous game. The trade freeze is hurting both economies. Japan's export-driven industries, from cars to electronics, face plummeting demand, factory shutdowns and job losses. The Nikkei index has tumbled, reflecting deep investor anxiety. In the US, consumers will soon see higher prices and fewer choices as Japanese goods disappear from shelves. American factories reliant on Japanese components face bottlenecks, threatening jobs and driving up costs. US farmers, counting on new Japanese markets for rice, corn, and soybeans, now see those sales frozen. Major deals for Boeing aircraft and defense equipment are also on hold, hitting American manufacturing. The trade war is a lose-lose, disrupted businesses, threatened jobs, and higher costs for all. Protectionist policies are backfiring, inflicting self-inflicted wounds on both sides. The longer the freeze lasts, the deeper the economic pain. The interconnected global economy means everyone pays the price. Rhetoric may focus on national interest, but the reality is mutual damage. Recovery will be slow and painful if the standoff drags on. The trade crisis has triggered a political firestorm in Japan, putting Prime Minister Ishiba's government under siege. Critics accuse the administration of being outmaneuvered by Washington and failing to protect Japan's interests. The ruling party, already weakened by recent election losses, faces mounting public anger and opposition attacks. With a leadership transition imminent, Japan faces its worst foreign policy crisis in decades amid political instability. Whoever takes over will inherit a fractured alliance and the daunting task of repairing ties with the U.S. Minister Akazawa, architect of the deal, is under fire for conceding too much and defending an agreement now in tatters. The government is divided, weakened, and facing an uncertain future as it confronts its top ally. The political fallout is severe, with Japan's leadership in turmoil at a critical moment. The standoff has devolved into a war of words, with both sides digging in. President Trump calls Japan's move a betrayal, threatening further escalation and higher tariffs. U.S. officials insist the tariffs are justified, refusing to compromise. Japanese leaders, frustrated and resolute, say the freeze was necessary to protect their economy from unfair treatment. The new Japanese leadership faces intense pressure to stand firm and demand real concessions. The core problem, ambiguity, mistrust, and aggressive tactics have poisoned the relationship. The flawed agreement, lacking a clear text, allowed for wildly different interpretations and set the stage for conflict. Without swift diplomacy and a willingness to clarify terms, the dispute could spiral into a full-blown economic war. The consequences would be dire: disrupted supply chains, higher prices, and lasting damage to a vital alliance. Only renewed negotiation and good faith can avert a crisis with no winners.